Welcome back to Teaching the Unteachables, where we dive into teaching and learning methodologies for professionals like you. This episode brought to you by Fieldpiece with the slogan, "If we can't make it better for the technician in the field, then we don't do it." Learn more at fieldpiece.com. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're hanging out at the 2024 National HVACR Education Conference, and I'm spending time with my good friend, Tony Gonzalez from Fieldpiece. How are you, sir?
I am living the dream, Clifton. How are you doing?
I am having the most amazing time. This place is such high energy, so many new things to talk about, new equipment, new refrigerants, and we're going to spend some time talking about new tools.
And so many new people.
Oh my goodness, isn't that crazy?
There's a large amount of people here at this conference this year, and it's great.
1,200 is where we ended up. Isn't it nuts?
It is nuts.
It just shows how much people want to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
I'm just thinking, how much longer can the South Point accommodate us if we keep on growing and all this and all that?
So that's a question that we're going to have to start talking about. So when we look at the growth over the last few years, yeah, it's probably time we start thinking about it, because it's definitely due. And I would love to see some more hands-on classes. We've been talking about that, maybe some hands-on competitions. And what we're going to talk about today is one of those kind of things that would be a phenomenal hands-on competition. So let's talk about how tools can expedite our jobs.
Right. So at the end of the day, we want a tool that's going to help us do our job easier, faster, or better.
Absolutely.
If it does not do that, then what is the point of using that tool?
Yeah, I've not gained anything.
Yeah, sure. So, one of the things that we've been thinking about is the way that we develop products is not starting with the tool first, but starting with what is the job to be done?
Yeah.
Like, what does the technician have to do?
Yeah.
And then what are the pain points that they currently experience when they're doing that job? Right.
Right.
And so we've been giving a lot of thought about flow, when we're talking about system evacuation, refrigerant recovery. And there's a few different ways you can help expedite those processes by increasing flow, like using larger diameter hoses, shorter length hoses. On the recovery side, really controlling the pressure temperature at the recovery cylinder is probably the biggest impact you can have.
Absolutely.
With speeds on that. But one of them also to help increase flow, minimize restrictions, is to take out valve cores.
That's huge, man. It's absolutely huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is a question that I did have, though. So we talk about this tool that many people use. It's a valve core removal tool, right?
Yeah.
And what those were originally designed for was to replace
existing cores or broken cores or leaking
cores, broken cores on a pressurized system.
Yes, absolutely.
So my question to that is, when did the industry realize, oh, hey, there's this added benefit that if we remove a core, not just to replace it, but during a service, when did that become, I guess, understood?
Practice?
Common practice.
Man, I tell you what, not very long, at least from what I've seen in the field, right? I've used valve core removals for 25 years, right? This is my 25th year in the industry, in the HVAC side. And so that was really all that I was taught to utilize it for. It wasn't until I started teaching and I started having other people discussing using valve core removal tools for making things faster, and I started doing that more on my own. So for me personally, I would say in the last 5 years or so. And I'm sure there's people out there that have been saying, I've been doing this for 20 years. And I hope so, but I've not ran into any of them. So honestly, I would say it is very new to the industry and likely in the last 5 years to 10 years tops.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so it's getting to be more and more understood that I can pull a vacuum faster, I can recover faster if I'm pulling the core, whether it's bad or not. Yeah. If I'm pulling the core out, except one of the problems talking with many technicians is it's like a lot of times it's not a straightforward process just to take out the core.
Yeah.
A lot of them have a fear of breaking the core, or it just takes time because it takes multiple attempts for them to actually get the core out. Like anyone that's used a valve core removal tool and to try to remove a core, has always played the game of, did I get it? And you laugh because you know the game that I'm talking about.
Fishing for the core. I know that one.
Exactly. And so ever since these tools have been invented, there was no way that you can know that you got the Schrader or that you got the core unless you pulled out your plunger grabber,
the valve
blank it off, unscrew it off. True. And then you're doing your prayers.
Yeah. Is it there?
Actually got it. Is it there? Right. So like usually that takes multiple attempts.
Yeah.
And so there's many technicians that we talk to this like, I just don't want to put the time into that. When in reality, even if that was the case, over the whole job, they would still save like way more time on it. Right. But there are those certain pain points. So we designed a set of valve core removal tools that helps to make that process easier, faster, and better.
Okay. Skimming through my brain here, trying to think, what would that be? Of course, I've seen the package, so I can't.
You have seen the package.
All right. So let's. Tell me what we're doing here.
Yeah. So first we'll start to address that issue of did I get the actual valve core without having to do it multiple times?
Yeah.
Right. So what we've incorporated into 2 of our valve core removal tools is a sight glass.
Oh gosh, that is crazy.
And so the sight glass would do exactly what you think it would do is as you're pulling out the plunger from the tool, you can visually see whether or not you have that valve core attached to the grabber.
Oh my gosh.
And so that's the benefit there. But in addition to that, you get the benefit of just having a sight glass. So we have many technicians, many in the industry that are transitioning away from manifold and going into wireless probes.
Right here. Absolutely.
Right. And so one of the things that you lose when you do that is you lose the sight glass from your manifold.
That's so true. Yeah.
And so it's not like it's required to have a sight glass.
That's sure nice, though.
It's very nice to have.
I love to see what my refrigerant looks like. It tells me how my system was functioning internally.
Right. Yeah. And so now having the sight glass in your VCRT not only lets you see the core, but now you get that visibility back to the refrigerant.
Oh my gosh. Such a simple thing. I mean, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah. You know what's funny? That's probably the most asked question I get when you show people these tools. Yeah. Why didn't anybody think of this sooner?
That's crazy because you look at it and go, oh, it's serving multiple purposes. I can see the core. I don't have to pull it all the way out, hoping it's there. And then worrying about, okay, so now is it unthreaded and it's sitting in there? And if I open this valve back up, it's going to go shooting across this room and then we'll have refrigerant. So you actually get to visually see it. And then during the process, you're actually getting to take a look at the refrigerant as it's passing through. Love it.
Absolutely.
I sold on that.
Yeah. So that's one of the innovations there. Now, the other one here is you see that your typical valve core removal tool has a single ball valve.
Yeah.
Right. That stops the flow from the system into your recovery cylinder or your hose or whatever. However, when you're pouring a vacuum, measuring your microns at the system on a side port of the valve core removal tool is a pretty common thing.
Absolutely.
And so one of the difficulties of that is, you connect your vacuum gauge to the side port of your typical valve core removal tool. And, you're pulling a vacuum on the system. And then when you're done, you want to isolate, you blank off your tool here.
Yeah.
So now the micron gauge is reading what's at the system. Once you've proved that there's no leak or just whatever in the system, at some point, you're going to have to put refrigerant back into that system, right? And so now you're in a predicament of, well, I could either just charge the system with refrigerant and expose my micron sensor to the positive charge if I have no other second ball valve or no other second tool that's onto that side here, right? Or I can, while it's still, before I charge it up, I can unscrew this from here. But the downside of that is there's a momentary a time where you hear the
system
and you're opening the system and it's sucking moisture back into the system.
Absolutely, you are
right. So in order to prevent having to use a second tool, which makes your tool bigger, and also introduces another leak,
another potential leak
in the
another
system.
At least a couple.
Just incorporated a second ball valve into the side.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. Thank you.
So that now when you have your micron gauge here, when you're ready to charge back up, you just blank off that second ball valve and you're charging without any worries of contaminating your micron sensor or letting air moisture back into the system when you?
I would say probably 75% of the technicians that I encounter in the field had an additional ball valve on that side port. And so you just completely incorporate it back into one device. That's absolutely perfect for what we need. This is something that means a lot to me when I'm teaching an evacuation on a system. I actually tend to do things kind of like it's in the book, but slightly different. So I believe in triple evacuation. I believe in introducing nitrogen, vacuum, nitrogen, vacuum. But I actually set my nitrogen up on my high side line, and I set my vacuum pump on my low side line. But then I actually introduce nitrogen in through my system first, and I purge my system through nitrogen, then I pull a vacuum. And I try to keep it as tight as possible by adding additional ball valves while I'm doing that, because I either have to use 2 separate ball valves or I'm going to pull my core tool out. Because for me, I want to use my handle and I want to pull my core and I want to shut that off. And then if I'm pushing my nitrogen, I want to be able to open my side valve, introduce my nitrogen, but at the other end where my vacuum pump is, I want to be able to shut off my vacuum pump so that I'm not blowing nitrogen back through my oil chamber and through my pump assembly. And I want to open a side valve so that I can now pressurize with nitrogen, and then I can shut them off, come back and turn my vacuum pump on. So I'm never changing my process. I'm never opening my system between positive pressure with nitrogen and negative pressure on my vacuum. And it's always difficult because I got to change things around, and I always have to open and close valves or have that potential for leak and introduce air back into the system, any kind of moisture. So you're really doing what many technicians were already trying to do, now doing it with less leaks and adding a sight glass into the function because we removed it off from our manifold. And you've solved my personal dilemmas, and I love the idea.
Yeah. And, people ask, how come nobody's done this before? Short answer is, I don't know, because it seems like it's pretty intuitive.
Yeah.
But that's just a callback to how we think about developing our products, right? We develop solutions. That's how we look at it. If there's no problem, then there's no solution needed.
Yeah.
So just trying to focus on what the job is, what does a technician need to do, and how can we help them do that, right? Easier, faster, or better.
Oh my gosh, Tony, I'm sold, man. That is such a cool tool. And I love new tools and technologies. But if it's something that saves me a lot of time, I'm 100%
even better.
Yeah.
Cherry on top. Cherry on top.
I love that.
And what's also great about the whole family, so there's 3 of them, right? There's the VC1, which is most traditional,
like traditional style, yeah.
Style. Then the VC1G, which brings in the sight glass, and then the VC2G, which brings in the sight glass and the second ball valve. Now, what's nice is all 3 are vacuum rated down to 20 microns.
Yes.
A2L compatible, if that's something that the technician needs.
Looking for specifically. Yep.
But also what's really nice is this fitting right here actually comes off
on the unit side.
On the unit side,
Okay.
right? So the female flare fitting that connects to your 1/4 inch service port.
Yep.
This detaches from your tool, and you can screw on a 5/16 inch fitting for your mini splits.
I don't have to have 2 sets of them now.
You don't need 2 sets of them anymore, or you don't have to screw on an adapter. On top of your current 1/4 inch.
Yeah.
That makes the tool longer.
Absolutely.
And so all 3 give you the ability to have swappable fittings between 1/4 inch and 5/16 on the female flare unit side of the valve core mobile tool.
Reducing my amount of tools that I need to have around. And so now I can buy the better tool. I can buy the VC3G, 2G, and utilize it on both traditional systems, all my ductless. Okay.
All in one sweet package.
Thank you. And these are the kind of things that we love to see, because I think about how many technicians out there have been buying extra valves and basically building out their core removal tools into a functional device. And now we've got it in one body.
In one body, absolutely.
Okay. When do they hit the market?
They're actually starting to ship in a week, I believe.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So very, very soon. There's already huge demand. So go to your local wholesaler, go and put in your order. If they want more information about these tools or any of our tools, they can go to fieldpiece.com.
Yeah.
If they want more A2L tool related information, they could also go to fieldpiece.com and just ensure that they have the tools that they need in order to start, working on their newer systems with these A2L refrigerants coming in.
Man, they are shipping so much faster than even I anticipated. I knew we would have equipment by third quarter. A lot of people say, no, we're not going to see it till first quarter next year. So I actually just talked to ATSA for, I can't say which manufacturer, and they're anticipating seeing equipment by next quarter, unitary split systems. And many of our manufacturers are saying definitely by third quarter of this year. I've only had a couple of them saying that they're not going to be launching until first quarter 25. So we're going to have a lot of A2L equipment hitting the industry in a very, very short period of time.
Yeah. And just because they're not shipping yet, I was talking with one of the OEMs and they were talking to a group of their contractors of, contractors don't just plan out projects 1 week in advance.
No.
They are months in advance.
Yeah.
So they're already telling their contractors in Q4 of last year that, look at your long-term projects in 2024, your multifamily big light project, and just know that you're probably going to have to be incorporating A2L into these projects. So this is something that they need to start thinking about now, not just, when they actually come in.
That's really what I think the focus of this conference has been about so far, is everyone coming to the industry with what they have to help the industry not be prepared for things that are coming, to be prepared now. Get ready for this. We're going through a technological transition and a refrigerant transition at the same time. Mm-hmm. And we all have a lot to just prepare for. So anything that's going to help be more universal and save time, that's really what we're all about.
That's the way to go.
All right. So you've got to be busy for training right now.
Yes. So fortunately, it's not just myself.
Yeah.
I have a great team of 3 trainers that are based in different parts of the country. Mm-hmm. And as a team, we go out and we work directly with wholesalers. We work directly with contractors, and we set up trainings that are not sales pitches. They're actual technical, hands-on best practices on how to do certain parts of the job, right? Yep. So for example, Fieldpiece knows, or people know that Fieldpiece, we have vacuum pumps, right?
Yeah.
We don't have a vacuum pump class. We have a system evacuation class.
Look at there. Okay.
Right? So we're teaching the best practices on how to pull a vacuum, how to make it faster. So regardless of what vacuum pump a person in our class uses, they're going to benefit from the class and they're going to be able to do their job, faster.
Absolutely.
And so that's, pretty much what we do. But yes, right now, this is the very busy time for training everywhere. I'm sure it's very busy for you all as well.
Yeah, it is, but it's an enjoyable thing to be a part of that. So how can people find out about training resources from Fieldpiece?
Yeah, so there's a couple ways. One, they can go to fieldpiece.com and go to our training section on the website.
Yep.
They could also go directly to Fieldpiece University, which is our online learning resource, where they can get technical application-based trainings on how to do different aspects of their job, easier, faster, better, and how to let technology and modern tools help them achieve that.
That's the name of the game, man.
That's it.
All right. Well, Tony Gonzalez, thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to stopping by the booth, seeing what all we got going on, and make sure to check them out if you're hanging out here at the conference. And we'll be here for a couple more days just learning about all of the transitions in our industry.
It was a pleasure. Thanks, Clifton.
Cool. Thanks, man.